See how this works.
Does it really, though? I mean, does it?
Yeah.
We're live!
We are. We are live.
There's already 4 people
Art
on.
in color.
Mr. Peabody, wow, man.
He's like first in. Boom.
Mr. Peabody, where were you just before we went live? I mean, come on.
Well, there was a couple people waiting.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, you schedule it now. I like that.
Yeah.
It's classy.
Well, if I did it a little earlier, it'd be classier.
Oh, there's 7 now watching. We're getting the mass rush for YouTube is now on.
Before the people start getting bored, let's go.
Let's make sure we got to make sure that we can't get too crazy because we might disrupt the bandwidth of YouTube a little bit with the number of people that are going to tune into the show.
Oh yeah, they only plan for like 20.
Yeah.
You have to pay for more bandwidth.
That's right.
I was thinking
watching
of
snowblower videos.
I was watching another podcast the other day, and they do a funding thing on theirs. And if you give money to the podcast, you get your name highlighted in the chat. And the more money you give, the bigger your name is in the chat. So you can be really annoying.
Physically big?
Well, there's a big box around it in that color. And it's
mean, like, what are we talking for quantities here? Because, I mean, if we're talking $5 gets you a box, I mean, it's worth just throwing like $500 down once to be like, every time you type, all they see is your name. Like, that's it.
That would
like,
be awesome. I do have a Patreon account for this thing, but I never asked for money. I probably should. Be help pay for it. Why is it so hot in here?
That's a
super chat. What's going on? Jason, we just watched your video on the world's smallest vector monitor.
Yes. It was great. And now I have my clothes back on.
Oh, that's sick.
Sorry.
Most of them. He's standing a little close to the camera. We can't see the crotch light today.
I didn't turn it on. It's not necessary.
Funny. The shirt you're wearing, is that a Goonie shirt?
This is a Stranger Things shirt.
Oh, okay, Stranger Things. So there's one just like that for Mandalorian now. It's got this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
You can get like a whole series of those shirts. What you fellas drinking?
I ran out.
Matt's like, fail.
Burger King.
Burger King.
Oh, so I'm drinking a Deschutes fresh squeezed IPA.
Oh, nice.
Which is delicious.
Descahoots.
That's correct. Descahoots. And then later I will be opening one of the 18 remaining St. Arnold's Pumpkinators. Brewed in a bourbon barrel. The best delicious pumpkin beer that exists.
Oh, nice. So we can expect you to check out.
I won't fall asleep, that's for sure. Cheers. Where's the camera? Where's the camera? Yeah.
Salute.
Salute.
How the chatters doing, man?
Let's see. I navigated away.
Hey,
Adam looks like he's seen a ghost.
That's right. Everybody's noticing Adam's hair color and glasses, I wonder.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, thanks, man. It's crazy. I just decided since I had it, I might as well do something kind of funky.
Have you ever colored your hair in any way?
Yeah, but not to this extreme.
I want to go to blue hair. I work from home. Why don't I do that?
I don't know. You should do it while you have it. Because
I take stuff. I take stuff to keep it.
Oh, that's funny.
That's true.
Puts hair in your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Should we try this thing? I want to try this thing.
What do you got?
What
do you got?
I was gonna spin up the intro and see what happens.
Oh, try this thing. That's your new way of saying
shut everything down and make some video go on without any sound?
Oh,
Yes, that's how we roll. Our audience is the beta testers.
Wonder if I have enough time to run with the video obstructing the screen to get another.
Oh, that's funny. Peabody says Adam cleaned his room.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's great.
I noticed that, Mr. Peabody.
I did not.
Let's try this out.
Okay.
Live from KOYR Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is Arcade Radio.
Hello, Commander. Computer reporting.
Intruder alert, intruder alert. A stimulating opponent.
Well, hello and welcome to what is this, season 4, episode 7 of the Arcade Radio podcast. I just want to say today is Thursday, January 9th, 2020, and the time is approximately 7:22 p.m. Central. That was an awesome prediction, Mark. Thanks for joining us in the Arcadosphere. This is your host, Adam. I'm joined by my co-host, Mark, and Paradise Arcade Shop proprietor and Brad Pitt impersonator, Brian. Joining us, the last Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, and also the last Emperor of the Galactic Empire, also known as Darth Sidious, and trained in the dark side of the Force by Darth Plagueis. Please join us in welcoming the one, the only, Emperor Sheev Palpatine.
Oh, hey, wait. He's not able to make the show.
What?
No, yeah.
Uh-oh.
We got somebody else.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's Matt.
Joining us is Matt Janeczek. Who the hell's this guy?
I don't know. Hey, guys. What's up?
We're only allowed to go by one name today. Wow.
Welcome, Matt Janeczek, to the show.
Yeah.
Boom. Well, I say let's open this little soiree up with a little what you been working on. Brian. Wait. No. Mark.
Me?
Yeah, you go first.
Well, let me tell you about Brian. I gave him some of my money, and now I have a space zap coming.
The hell you
Cabaret.
say?
There was a trading and a juggling and a drive, and it's fun. And I think we talked about it last time, but I'm excited because now I've actually given him money, and so I'm gonna put it. Yes.
Space Sap
And a Kitty Rama.
Whoa.
I'm the first person to buy a Kitty Rama from him. So.
I really want to get one, but I have no room.
Oh, I don't have room either, but it's going to happen. There's going to be some storage adjustments. And, yeah, it's going to happen.
I love the Kitty Rama. When I was a kid, there was this place that had like a cobblestone path in an indoor mall. And it went to the center. And in the center of this was like a I don't know what, like a commons area. And then in there was a Kitty Rama and a hot chocolate machine.
Oh.
And you could... hot chocolate was free, and the Kitty Rama was a quarter. Yeah.
No.
So
ingenious.
You put the cup in there, and you press the orange button, and it would do the, and.
Okay. Quick question.
Yeah.
Maybe a little off topic.
Sure.
But what's the best vending machine you've ever seen? So you brought up a hot chocolate vending machine. So like, could be a quarter pay, whatever.
You mean like
what's the kind of
modern
craziest,
or
most
like
interesting? Could be old, new, whatever.
Okay.
Like, what's the one that you like? People are like, no, there was not.
Huh.
I like the ones where they pop popcorn for you, like on the fly.
That's a good one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Those are cool. I'll tell you my favorite vending machine. It was at my first tech job in 1995, and we called it the Wheel of Death. It was basically an automat. So you put money in, and the thing, you could rotate, and there'd be, like chuck wagon sandwiches and milk and like and apples, and then you put your money in, and you could slide the thing open and choose and pull your chuck wagon sandwich and then microwave it. I love that thing.
So in college, they had a French fry machine.
What?
You'd slide $1 in, the frozen fries would drop down into a vat of oil, fry them, and then it would scoop them out and dump them in a cup.
That sounds so incredibly gross because that oil did not get changed.
No, no, I didn't say it was sanitary, but it was crazy. I mean, you walk up, you're like, fresh fries, $1 in.
Yeah,
you
Let's
can
go.
change
Fresh.
the oil.
We're supposed to change the oil?
When I worked at Whataburger, that's kind of a southern type of thing out here.
Whataburger?
And we never changed the oil. That was my first job.
Wow. Do you have a picture of you wearing the uniform?
I still own the uniform. I never gave it back.
Why do you not have it on?
No, I mean, it's in storage, but I could find it, and then I'll do a whole show wearing my Whataburger uniform.
I would love that. That'd be
Okay. From 1988.
I'll wear my Target name tag.
Nice.
I'll try to find a red shirt and some khakis and put on my Target name.
I am not wearing my uniform from high school.
I also have my Sears name tag somewhere too.
I had a Sears name tag too. Oh, I posted pictures on Twitter about it. My first job at Sears was taking pictures of kids on a bike. While E.T. was in the basket.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's good times.
So, Brian, what have you been working on?
Oh, gosh. So today we finished reassembling TaxScan. Last week we got a Frogger together, Star Wars together. It's been busy.
What about that Omega race?
I got 2 Omega races working. Sold one, and I just threw one outside and said,
Yes.
put a sign saying free on it.
You're such a dickhole.
Nobody fixes those.
It's a big sign that just says, please get this shit out of my way. Yeah.
All right.
So one of the local operators came by and in an ironic twist said, hey, we've sold all of our classic games and now we have all these events that we're going to and people are requesting classic games. Do you have any classic games you can sell us? And I was like, well, I've got a Frogger and a Star Wars and a Centipede Missile Command, Millipede Machine and an Omega race. And I expected him to be like, I'll take the Frogger. And he came through and took everything and said, can you get anything else for us? I'm like, yeah,
wow.
we'll keep working on this.
He's like, we have a bank loan. Let's go.
I don't know what it was, but Adam and I need to talk about there's another machine that he's looking at getting rid of, but this guy just kind of like, yeah, I was kind of shocked. I mean, I wasn't asking insane prices, but I definitely wasn't giving discounts.
No bro price.
No.
Yeah.
I kind of like figured he'd try and talk me down, and I shouldn't say this on the air, right? But instead he's just like, great, sounds good.
You bastard. Oh.
Hey, the exterminator goes nowhere, Mr. Peabody, no matter what Adam says.
Wow.
Hands off my exterminator there.
Well, both he and I played it, and we were in awe of how wonderful that game is not. I guess it's my turn. I bought a Mario Brothers. So a Mario Brothers wide body.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah. Which, it's a really fun 2-player game, and it was sort of Nintendo's answer to Joust, and I've always wanted one. And the price was right, and it was a fellow collector in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. And Fastenal is shipping that bad boy all the way from Grand Rapids to Plymouth for a mere $75.
Wow.
Ooh, oh yeah. Is that going to fit down your little staircase into the basement, or?
Yeah, it's not that much wider.
Oh, okay.
They added like 3 inches to the cabinet. Instead of being 24, it's like 26 or 27 or something.
So Adam, 3 inches makes a difference, huh?
That's what they say. That's what they say.
What?
All of them say it. Oh, and then I got a millipede. I don't know if I said this last time. Did I talk about the millipede board I bought? I bought a millipede board like 2 months ago, and then it never showed up, and I forgot about it. Did you guys ever do that? You buy something, and then like on eBay, and then like a month and a half goes by, and you're like, wait a minute, where the hell is that thing?
Oh yeah, I've done that a few times.
So I emailed the guy, and I'm like, so yeah, I ordered this like 2 months ago. What's up? And he's like, oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah, we processed 3 of those. I see yours didn't go out. I wonder how many people just wait for people not to, notice.
Yeah.
Store policy where we are,
It's nice. But anyway,
I'm joking.
I got this.
I'm like
I got the millipede board because I thought I'm gonna multipede my centipede because I have cabaret centipede. But I think I'm gonna sell my centipede because I have 2 now. And I like the uprights or the full size dedicated. So I think I'm going to keep that one and retire the cabaret.
Huh.
Anyone want a cabaret centipede for $1,000?
Well, for $1,000? Oh.
Already.
Well, it's restored.
I think we're ready to talk to Matt.
Oh yeah, Matt. Matt Palpatine. What are you up to?
Oh well, usual fixing Sega Vector stuff for folks. I just shipped out 4 different boxes just a couple days ago, so I've been doing that like crazy. And
sweet.
This year, starting in January 1st, 2020, I made a pledge to myself to kind of balance doing that because I get so fixated doing that for folks with repairing my own games and getting a nice game set up for myself. Believe it or not, I still have mounds of games sitting that are just in various states of disrepair, so I need to get more balance in my life.
So, do you practice on other people's stuff then?
Every GOA I get is a practice because you never know what you're getting into.
Well, that didn't work.
Yeah, right.
Remind me not to do that on my chassis.
So what's the first game that you want to get going of your stuff?
Well, I had a kind of a 2-week vacation or 3-week vacation off of work at the end of the year. So I already have probably 8 or 9 games that were not working about a month ago working. So I'm starting down the path. Yeah, it's
nice. That's like a half year that's like 6 months for me.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's going to be a year-long project, though, I can tell you, because I picked the ones that were easier to fix. Let's put it that way.
Hey, Jason in the chat is saying put the Vectorpede ROMs in it. I think he's talking about my centipede. Is there Vectorpede? That'd be kind of fun.
There might be.
I've never heard of that. Anybody else hear that?
I don't know, but I'll Google it.
No. Also, Jen said something about liking a cotton candy vending machine.
Oh, I've seen those. Those are kind of cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
You can put the so it just does the vector style image. It's raster, but it makes it look vector.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Huh. I might try that. I have the means.
You can also play ducks, too.
Ducks?
In Vector?
Them are not ducks.
I don't know. Oh, I did buy a new game.
Why?
I bought 2 games.
What game did you buy?
I bought a Galaga 88.
Oh, that's cool.
So in the dedicated cabinet, and I bought a Omega Race cocktail.
Oh yeah,
which
I miss.
I don't know why I need another cocktail, but I now own like
every variation of Omega Race.
Well, you have to
38 of them.
Oh no.
So Alan, MN Rocketry, he used to have all 3 Omega Races too, and he took a picture.
There's 4.
There's 4.
There's 4.
Cabaret?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's a Cabaret.
I think he had all 4. No, he didn't have the cockpit, but at least he took the dedicated. He took the Cabaret and the cocktail, and he took a photo to match what was on the outside of the flyer.
I think I've seen that. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. That was years ago. That's when I bought the Omega Race from him, the cocktail.
Hey, Jen is asking Matt if he wants her Space Encounters strobe flasher for free.
Strobe flasher.
Oh, awesome. I love it. Yeah. Actually, that's one of the games I still have to fix in my lineup. That flash unit needs to be rebuilt. So I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Looks like we got a shortcut happening.
And so Jeff actually said that I should convert the Galaga 88 to a Dragon Spirit. Really sad, quick story. In Hawaii, I had the most beautiful Dragon Spirit ever. It looked brand new. And I was trying to make some money while I was in residency to pay rent. I had a dig dug that I had made an adapter board. I had not hacked the dig dug, made an adapter board, put a 61 in it, had a guy over the house, was trying to sell it to him. He looks at it, he goes, I want the Dragon Spirit. And I said, no. Like, this is what I'm selling. He goes, I want the Dragon Spirit. I said, come on. Dig dug multicade, $900, take it. He goes, what do you want for the Dragon Spirit? I'm like, give it like $1,800. He's like, done. No.
Should have gone higher.
Yeah.
Always start at 5K.
Yes, nice round number.
Hey, does anyone want to buy a Centipede Cabaret for $5,000?
No.
Listen to you cough. Like,
I would if it
Mark
had
is
ducks
price
in it.
policing me. He's price policing me. No one wants a Centipede for $5,000.
I'd buy it if it had ducks in it, not the ROMs. I want actual ducks in the cab.
In the cab, living in there.
Living ducks. Wow.
They'll be really upset with the brick, the Atari brick. It takes up so much room, and
Yeah, but it's probably warm. You know, I mean, like,
Right. Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, this is nice. This is nice.
Oh. Okay.
Good evening.
The Arcade News, arcades, pinball, industry alumni, arcade openings, collecting, celebrities, world record holders, operators, coin-op, conventions, new products and gadgets, gamers. The Arcade News.
I'm Brian McLeod. I'm Adam Stevens.
We interrupt the ventilator.
And now, the
I'm
Arcade
Marcel.
News with Brian McLeod.
welcome to the Arcade News. So, Mark did a great job putting the news together today, and I'm going to completely ignore it.
Why is that?
So, I had the opportunity 2 days ago. Was it 2 days ago? I can't even remember. This week is insane. On Monday night, I flew out to Vegas, and I was at CES for a day. So I got to spend the day wandering around CES. What?
Nothing. I was just sampling my...
Just kept saying.
Yep.
You
can keep going.
Well, I was out there. I had a chance to see. I don't know if some people saw. I posted on the Paradise Arcade Shop page. Arcade 1UP was announcing and showing off their new cabinets. They had their pinball cabinet was in a box, wasn't out for display.
What?
It had little stickers over it had these stickers on there that said like rights not acquired over like a couple of the names on there, which is pretty funny.
Really?
Like rights not acquired yet. And I got to see their Star Wars cockpit. That was interesting.
What?
Have you guys seen that?
I did. So they basically built a chair that attaches to the front, so it looks kind of like it slides away from it. So you can, it marries up to it when you push it, but when you pull it out, it looks kind of like a cockpit, but it's really just a chair.
And the comment was made to me like, so somebody asked like, how do you sit in that if you're an adult? And I kind of responded with, how do you sit in the original one if you're an adult? I mean, like cramming yourself into a Star Wars. I love the cockpit. Don't get me wrong. Like,
right.
Playing on the 2050 Ampliphone is awesome. But getting into that and out of that machine is not easy if you're over like 5'4".
Yeah. It's really low too.
Out of it.
It's so low.
Now, have you guys played the Star Wars, the Arcade 1UP Star Wars?
I have not.
No.
I hear good things. I hear good things.
So I actually didn't mind. So I played it, and on the home console, I can usually get through the advanced mode. I'm not great at the game, but I can usually get all the way through the first level on advanced, then get like through the second level pretty easily. And the third level, I just get destroyed. I mean, it's like just stop touching the controllers, you're done.
Right.
And on the unit they were playing, I enjoyed it, but I felt like it wasn't as responsive as the arcade one is. Like I kept shooting, and I'm like, how have I not hit these things?
Yeah, I heard there's a tiny bit of. I don't know if they had it
set to a different mode
Stormtrooper mode.
I heard there's a tiny bit of lag. So
it felt like that. I mean, I feel like on the advanced mode, I could get around and get the X-wings or get the TIE fighters, get the X-wings really.
Don't kill your own guys.
Yeah, I know, but. And on the 1UP cabinet, I had a hard time with it. They also had the Burger Time cabinets out that had a few other games on them. And then what else did they show while I was there? They had the NBA Jam. What's really funny is they're making a huge deal with this like giant NBA Jam machine, and there was nobody touching it. Like it's like the whole front of the booth, and they've got this like big thing laid out for like you have to get in line to get on this machine, and there was nobody there.
Oh man.
I think it's regional. There's people that see the NBA Jam that we have put in this brewery, and by we, I mean not me, but Aaron. And it's always got people playing it. I think it's just basically who's there. Who's talking?
Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
The sports games. Sports games actually work really well. I mean, like in arcades, people love to play them, especially if it's a one-on-one situation. So I don't see it being a problem. I would like to see them do Dragon's Lair because I don't want to buy one of those things. It's too expensive. Yeah. But I guess I don't think I'd ever buy a 1-up anyway. I have the DVD version of Dragon's Lair. That's good enough for me.
So I also got to see the Stranger Things pinball, which I know has been released, but they had the premium version there. Interesting thing about that is they have that awesome video showing the projection on the like targets and the movie screen, which is gorgeous, right? I mean, like it looks awesome in the video. I can tell you if you're buying one of these machines and it's in a well-lit room, it is going to look terrible.
Oh, no.
Because on the showroom floor, you could see the movie screen, you could see the targets, and you could see nothing else. Like all the ramp decals and everything they had on there, it was useless. Like you couldn't even see the projection on there. So
that's too bad.
But the screen was fun. The game played well. I mean, I'm not a pinball aficionado. I'm not like an expert in it. I had fun with it. It seemed like a good time. It felt like a standard Stern.
Sure.
The flippers were very clicky, is what I say about it. It didn't have that, very analog. I don't know. Some of the, I feel like Stern has kind of almost got this detached feeling between when you press the button and the flipper. It doesn't have that solid mechanical feel anymore. And this game was in line with a lot of their other games, but it was a good time.
So here's a question for you: gimmick or innovation on that screen? What do you think?
I actually really like it. I thought it was a great idea, and I think the attempt to execute it was interesting. The question is, was I playing on an early version of it that doesn't have enough projection strength, or because I mean you couldn't see anything on the ramps, like just nothing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
I wonder, why they didn't like put some reflective material on the ramps to have it light up when the Pico projector shoots at it, and you might find mods where people upgrade the projectors so that they're brighter.
Well, they did have reflective material on there. It didn't have the strength to actually get up to that level. And so you could see the drop targets, and that was really cool. And you could see the screen, and that was really neat.
It's a pretty open play field too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really open, but I like open play fields. Like those are the games I enjoy. So for me, that was great. For some people, they look at it and go, what the hell is this? And I will say, the multi-ball feature where you hit it up and it like launches up and then it just sticks to the back wall.
That pretty cool.
I mean, when you see that in person, that was just freaking awesome. It was like,
that's innovation.
Oh gosh.
I mean, no one's ever done that before.
No, and what was neat about it is that ramp is used for other things, but when you activate multi-ball, there's a little launch that goes up. So you hit it up the ramp, and you're almost not expecting it, and all of a sudden it just shoots out and stops. I mean, it was it was really well executed. That I really enjoyed.
Sweet.
So other things at the show that were interesting, there's a little device called the Wow Cube I really got a kick out of. It's kind of this handheld Rubik's Cube. Instead of 3x3, it was a 2x2 Rubik's Cube, but all of the facets of it, all the faces, were LCD screens. And so they could play games or you could rotate this around. What was really neat, so it's made up of 8 cubes, right, assembled into one.
Sure.
Each one of those 8 cubes is autonomous. So you could take any one of the 8 cubes off and it operates on its own. When you snap it together, they all communicate, and it's this Rubik's Cube type device.
Very cool.
The guys that did that, they're launching in 2 to 3 months. I was trying to get them into the store. It was really, really a neat device, about $250. But basically, it's like an iPad puzzle because you can put it down, use it as an alarm clock. You can take it with you. It does all sorts of like little things for you.
Huh. What's that called again?
It was called the WoW Cube.
The WoW Cube.
Yeah, if you search for it, there's a terrible video. The guys that made it are obviously Russian, and they made this video with these kids introducing it in English, and the whole like theme behind it is these aliens brought this technology to Earth, and they're sharing it with them, and they reverse engineered it. It's kind of a cute idea of a story, but the execution was terrible.
Oh,
the product was awesome.
I thought you were gonna say there's a guy in the background going, "No, with more feeling," you know, like,
probably before the voice
in a Russian accent. But okay,
you must get what most in squirrel.
The poor kid has this this ponytail that is just it was bad.
Well, come see my Cuba. I think you will like it. Mm-hmm.
So there's another competitor to kind of a competitor to the one-up cabinets coming out called iArcade or Arcade. I couldn't figure out which it was. Instead of doing cabaret sitting on a pedestal, it was bar top sitting on a taller pedestal. Nothing really interesting there. And then almost the entire rest of the show was VR. I mean, VR is just like, for arcade stuff, was just like everywhere. It was
interesting.
All over the place. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mark, were you here in the 90s when American Sports Bar was around?
Yes. I mean, I existed.
Do you remember?
Are you trying to say?
Do you guys remember the VR setup they had in there? These giant rings, and you had the headset on, and you get into the ring with and I'm sure they had these around the country, but it was like a giant ring that went around you so you wouldn't walk off the platform. And then it was essentially like a Mech Warrior game. So you put on the headset, and you'd walk around and try to shoot stuff, and you just look ridiculous in front of everybody at the bar.
Was the name of the company.
What was that?
Virtuality, I think, was the name of the company.
Yeah.
I remember those. I'm from Chicago, and they had them in the one shopping mall I used to go to. And when this came out, there was a huge line to try them. And
it
was crazy.
And they were ridiculously slow and laggy and not fun. Yes. It was just like, why would you ever do this again? I think, and it wasn't cheap. It was a couple bucks to play it.
Yeah.
So. I will say, so Mr. Peabody got it right. It is iArcade is this new arcade game thing. I will say, not to take away from the virtuality discussion.
Yeah.
The controls on this thing were absolutely terrible. And when I asked the guy about the controls, if anybody, I know nobody here is going to be interested in it. When I asked the guy about the buttons, I said, what are these buttons? He said, they're Sanwa compatible. What brand are they? He's like, they're the top brand. They're Sanwa compatible. Well, Sanwa is the fighting game. Well, Sanwa's the fighting game brand. There is a Chinese knockoff, which I'm pretty sure these were. They wouldn't show me the underneath the control panel.
Right.
That are just miserably terrible buttons. And so the controls in this thing were actually worse than the one-up controls when they first came out.
Wow. Yeah, I guess one-up has really upped their game too. They're putting nicer monitors into the new one-ups, and obviously they built a yoke, and they're shipping the Star Wars cabinet with the riser, so they're kind of starting to figure out their audience is not like an 8 or 9 year old kid.
Well, one of the things that hit me actually when I was looking at the one-up cabinets is, have you guys ever seen the like kid cabinets, like the little kid cabinets they have in Japan where it wasn't a cabaret? Like, I mean, it really struck me as being very similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways.
Sweet.
Brian Frober saying Sanwa buttons, just use them. Like I won't disagree. I've got like a wall of them in the shop. So, and I mean, it's, and I will tell you that they are $250 a piece retail. The price on those comes down quite a bit wholesale. So these guys that are using these Chinese buttons, if you buy them wholesale, you can buy them for 20 cents a piece.
Sure.
That gives you an idea of the energy and the effort and the cost they're putting in these cabinets. It's terrible. So anyways, anything else interesting at the show? There was a big CNET article or whatever on they are allowing more sex toys at the show. So there was a build your own vibe booth for anybody interested.
I missed out on that.
And
that's hilarious.
Sony introduced their electric car at the show. That was kind of interesting.
Was that one of the sex toys? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Maybe the back seat had a little vibration or something.
Oh no. Yikes. The Sony car.
I will say the LG 8K 200 monitor wall that you like see these pictures of that they show where it's got like the curved screens. like when you see the movie on YouTube, it's really impressive. In person, that thing's unbelievable. Like it's just stunning. And I did get to see I think it was 212 inch or 220 inch 8K TV. And the one other thing I'll bring up right now is they have one of the companies, I can't remember who it was now, is releasing TV wallpaper. It's 3mm thick, 60-inch screens that you like can put on your wall like wallpaper. And they don't have edges, so you can assemble and grid them and do that. Anyways,
interesting.
That's crazy.
There we go. I mean, it was a blast. So anybody who can go to the show, it was a lot of fun.
Did they talk about Onyx at all? I guess it's consumer electronics. Onyx is actually like a 42-foot Samsung screen that's in only like 3 or 4 theaters right now. Have you heard of that?
No.
I haven't.
It's crazy. Yeah, there's no projector. You just go to the theater, and then it's just 42 feet. It's gigantic.
They had this tree with like flexible screens on it that was kind of cool, where the screens are hanging off at like these. I mean, obviously the things that are coming with TVs are thin screen, flexible screen, large screen.
Wow.
I mean, those are they had the like whole screen drops down in and like 72-inch screens that pop up out of a box.
Mm-hmm.
They had the crystal clear screens where you like see right through them and then TV comes on. All sorts of kind of neat stuff.
Yeah.
So,
question in the chat: what kind of buttons were at the Vibe booth?
Oh.
I didn't go into the Vibe bus. It was like this bus you go into, and it was like create your own vibrator. So I guess in all like seriousness, not seriousness, kind of laughing, whatever. I guess sex toys have been avoided at CES for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like walking around. I'm going through the family section. There's like literally the like kids section, like health section, and then you walk around the corner, and it's not hidden. You just kind of like you're going down the aisle, and all of a sudden you're like vibrator sex life section. Like it is like, oh, hello.
What were the booth people like there? That's what I want to know.
They were better in some of the other sections. I think they figured they didn't have to draw in the crowd in those sections.
Oh, you got cut off.
Back in 82,
cut off.
I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Back to the cave with Time Runner.
Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational
pull? Yes, Doc, there is a problem with that gravitational pull, and we're going to have a little discussion about it, talking about arcade games in the 1980s. As usual in Season 4, we're going to listen to a little clip, a vintage clip from the 80s, and then we'll remark on it and say funny things about it, or just say that it wasn't that good and then move on.
All right.
Oh, and Adam, go ahead.
I'm going to roll the clip.
He's going to roll it live.
It was Space Invaders. Now all different forms of the game are storming the market and taking a big chunk out of the pinball machine business. The object of most of these games is to blow the enemy up before it blows you up, and their popularity stems from their complexity.
You're playing against a machine. It's really hard to, I guess it's maybe trying to do better every time you come in than what you did the time before.
It's a challenge to do something, and when it's raining outside and you don't have nothing to do, you can do something here.
Some players take out their aggressions on the machines, often with a particular person in mind.
Just can't beat on the machines because, you get in trouble and stuff like that. But I spend a lot of money in here. I spend about $5 or so.
Every day?
Every day.
Manufacturers of pinball machines are trying to meet the competition with games like these, where you play 3 balls at one time. But one Columbia distributor says a video explosion can't be stopped. In the next decade, plain old pinball machines may be a rare sight. Sandy Mason, News Scene 20.
So that's interesting. That predicting the death of pinball.
All right. Sure.
And they show some guys like humping onto the machines. I don't know if you saw that.
No. I don't think the sound was in sync on that very well. So maybe we'll just have to do a YouTube capture next time or something. But it was effective, right?
Yeah.
You could hear it. You could see it. So, but yeah, that's anyone have any comments on that, or what? Are we all just kind of like, yep, that's what happened?
I like how they found like some criminal kid. Like, I'd be outside killing people, but now I'm here. And then the other guy, it's raining, so I'm inside here playing games because I don't like rain.
Well, that girl who's
wet.
I'm always astounded at the amount of money that people spent in arcades.
So much money, $5.
Well, $5 today is like $11.
That was like 3 hours of work.
Yeah, or an hour minimum wage.
$2.50 back in 1982. I don't know.
Yeah, that was probably 81 or 82 because there was like a Sprint 2 in there, and so Tempest was what, 81? Or was it 80? Yeah, 81.
No, not 80.
Yeah, so it had to have been. I don't know.
I think Battlezone was 80.
Yeah.
It's got the same math board, actually, I think, or similar.
Yeah. What do you think of that thing, Matt?
Well, I can only hear it. I can't see it. I don't know if I'm not the right thing, but I think I've seen that clip before. Vaguely recall. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to think like, back when all this stuff was popular, all these news media outlets and stuff always had these very angled stories, probably get parents all riled up about why they shouldn't let their kids.
It's so weird. Like the majority of clips that we played this year have had a negative connotation with arcades.
Well, I mean, that same kind of journalism, that outrage journalism, it never really started. It's always been around. So there are, like last week we had people who invested in certain arcade games. I mean, of course, anybody who buys the game is an investor. Sure. And then the games ended up sucking and nobody played them. And they're like, I spent $3,000 and nobody wanted to play my Space Invaders clone. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that was like a 11-minute interview, though. We couldn't make it past 3 minutes on that.
Do you guys notice there's a bed up against the wall in Brian's office?
Oh, there's a mattress there.
It's kind of weird.
I want to get a mattress and put it.
Maybe he sleeps in a vertical position. Like a vampire.
He's got a back problem? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's weird. Literally, I can go get a mattress right now and just put it right back here. But this is my segment, so I can't leave. Hey.
Yeah.
Do you know what's in the juke?
What's in the juke?
Welcome to What's in the Juke, where we play a little bit of an old song and then hope that people in chat recognize it. And if they don't, we'll give Matt a chance.
There we go.
Matt will be able to listen in real time, and the people on the chat will have a slight delay. So while we wait for them to give their responses, let me tell you a little bit about the rules here. If you get the artist right, you will get a half point.
Half point.
If you get the title and the artist right, that's a full point.
Full point.
Yes, and of course there will be fighting. Nice.
It's like we planned that or something.
Yeah, I think we've done this a couple times.
So we're ready for the first clip?
Yeah.
All right, let's roll.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to start it off nice and smooth.
That's nice.
Yeah. Should we do it again?
All right. Sure. Brian Fober says, no idea. Sorry, Brian Fober.
Mellencamp is not correct.
It was not Mellencamp.
But that was a good guess.
Randy Gelkin got the artist Southern, the song's title, Southern Cross.
He also got he abbreviated, but he got the artist.
He did?
Yep. So I
Crosby,
think we have to give him a full point.
Randall Gelking in the lead.
All right. He's off to a good start. All right, next track. Here we go.
Oh, yeah. I like your vector. What? Oh, you cut me off.
What's your vector, Victor?
Roger.
That's the name of this episode. What's your vector, Victor?
Okay.
And we have Keep Forgetting And it is Michael McDonald. It looks like
Andy Baldwin
got the track and he gets both. So he gets a full point.
Full point. So many Vector guys in the show tonight.
Yeah. All right, here comes the next track.
Oh, that's a hard one.
You think so? I know that one right away. Yeah.
I like how you laugh. You're like, ha ha ha. Oh!
Randy Gelking pulls it out with Eye in the Sky. And then Ryan follows it up with the Alan Parsons Project. And so those guys share a half point. Nice. That's awesome. There's some good fighting going on. This is a close match today. I'm telling you. All right. Here comes the next clip.
Oh, yeah. I like that Star Wars. What's that?
Yeah, that's... I think somebody will get it. So, this is actually the songs that are in this. Oh, The Girl Is Mine. Jeff Willard is on the board with a half point.
Half point.
All right. And Andy Baldwin. Oh, and he got the artist.
Full point.
For Jeff Willard. Is that correct? Somebody back me up on that. I'm trying to do two things at once.
Let's see. Girl's Mine. Jeff Willard, he got that. Michael Jackson and yes.
That's
Jeff
awesome.
Willard, full point.
All right.
Hey, is Ryan S1500?
He is. Yeah,
Okay, got it.
S1500. Yep. Sorry about that. And I probably just gave away his name again, like for the umpteenth time. He's
damn
like,
it, sorry, Ryan.
Name,
I mean, S1500. S1500.
S1500. All right.
I don't know. Well, good job, Randy. You're in the top. You're in the beginning.
All right. So far we've had Southern Cross. I keep forgetting. Eye in the Sky. The Girl's Mine. And here's your next track. I think this one's hard.
Isn't this a cover?
It is.
Us.
Brian Frober got the artist. It is Phil Collins. And S1500 gets the other half point.
Half point.
For the title.
No, Joe Drosen got Phil Collins before Brian did.
Did he?
He did. Just look
I'm
up a little.
Sorry, Brian. Joe, welcome to the game.
Welcome.
You get a half point.
Half point.
And the fighting continues. So let's do the next track.
Begin.
I know we've had this track on here in the past, but it's such a good track.
I saw this guy play at a tiny, tiny baby little club in Philadelphia once.
Colin
and
Hay.
it was so small, yes.
Yep. S1500 just got the point, by the way, I think.
Oh, he did?
Yep.
The full point?
Yeah, the full point.
Full point.
That puts him in the lead.
He's got both of them. I should maybe give something away this time.
I have something. Hold on, let me.
All right.
Let me go. Go play a song and I'll get you something.
All right. Here comes the next track, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope you're entertained, Matt.
I'm terrible at guessing songs, so yeah.
Do you have the chat open so you can see all this nonsense going on?
I don't. I just have the Skype open. I should open up the other thing.
If you want to keep track of these contestants and they may ask you questions too, although we'll relay them. But it's RcadeRadio.live if you want to tune in. So and just make sure your volume's turned down because you'll get an echo. But but that's okay.
Am I giving this away? No, I'm not giving this away. Let me change.
Mark is now looking for something to give away. Okay. Here comes your next track.
I know that one, but I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, I got it.
You got something? All right. And I'm so excited. That was Brian Frober. Oh, Andy Baldwin was just a tick ahead. And that is by the Pointer Sisters. Ryan gets a half point. Andy Baldwin gets a half point.
Okay, adding that.
All right. So...
Oh, wait, does this mean Brian Fober is on the... He's finally on the thing?
No, it's Andy. Andy Baldwin got that half point. He was just a titch before Brian. So,
oh, I see. And who got the other half point?
Ryan, actually, with the...
Oh, Ryan. Yeah. Oh, you mean S1500. Got it.
Yep. S1500. That's what I meant.
So tonight we're playing for a comfy throw. A comfy throw. That's what it says, comfy throw. I keep reading, but I'm like, it doesn't get any better every time I read it.
Okay.
But it's a Darth Vader comfy throw. Can you see?
Oh, is it one of those onesies you wear?
Kind of. It's like a blanket with sleeves for you to put your arm through. Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Walk around naked, but just wearing Darth Vader's costume. Don't send us any pictures once you get it.
Oh, that's great, especially for Minnesotans.
There you go.
All right. And Chicagoites. Chicagans. All right, here comes your next track.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Ryan.
God.
Dang, Ryan, it's
Holy
amazing.
Moly.
You're going to be walking around in this Darth Vader underwear right away.
Full point.
For Ryan. That's just awesome. S1500, another point. It's a tight match tonight.
And who was that exactly? What song?
Oh, yeah, Don Henley. So.
Dirty Laundry.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. And here comes your next track.
Wow.
There was not even
no idea.
No beat.
No beat.
Oh, we're getting some feedback. You're going to have to mute your YouTube channel. Yeah. Anyway, that was I Ran by a Flock of Seagulls. Mark, who got it?
Ryan got the title, and Brian Fober got... Wait, Flock of Seagulls. So Ryan got the artist, and Brian Fober got the title. I Ran.
All right.
Half point.
For each of those guys. That's
Flock
pretty...
of Seagulls.
All right, so this is the last track. Here we go. Okay. You think that was enough? Andy Baldwin, Sexual Healing, and Brian Frober, and Ryan, and Casey. Thanks, Casey.
Casey's here.
What the heck? He's just sitting there. He's just waiting for who got the artist.
Nobody has said the artist yet.
It is not
Barry
Barry
White.
White.
That is incorrect.
That is incorrect.
It's the other guy.
It's the other guy.
I'll give you a hint. I think his dad killed him. Anyway, so...
Marvin Gaye, Andy Baldwin. So we got a half point
Andy.
for both those guys. Point. All right, cool. Well, why don't you tell him up, Mark? Let us know who won that
Ryan,
wonderful throw.
S1500, a.k.a. Ryan, 4 points. And if you don't want it, Andy Baldwin is the backup, the secondary.
Sure.
With 2.5 points. And then Randy Gelking, third place, 1.5. Jeff Willard, fourth place with just 1 point. And Joe Drosen and Brian Fober in dreary fifth place with just a half point each.
Well, Ryan, to claim
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for coming back to the 80s with us.
To claim your prize, drop us a line on the Facebook Arcade Radio page, or you can send me an email at adam@arcaderadio.com. And I will forward the information on to Mark. Yes. Okay, so that brings us to I guess we have to see if there's any calls in the hopper, and there is a call for
Oh, right.
I don't know how. I mean, I don't. You think it's one?
You
one
didn't
call.
Screen this call? You have no idea what it's about?
No, I have no idea. So we're just gonna let it go. Here we go.
Thank you for calling 612-548-GAME. This is Arcade Radio. Please leave your message after the tone.
Hey, Arcade Radio, stranger guys. Everybody, Bob ZEK, control panel expert and technician. Did you know that? Hey, so I'm a little busy right now. Remember I told you I live in 10 shipping containers? Well, now I live in 20 shipping containers. Yeah, I guess Walmart had some extras, and they stacked them on top of my old shipping containers. So I've been drilling and doing stuff to make holes in things. And hey, don't go down there, okay? Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been doing. It's not very funny, but hey, what's going on? I got some more room for my control panel collection. You know what? I've never talked about that. Well, let's see, what's my rarest control panel? I have one from an elevator from 1910. I happen to also have that elevator there, but it takes too much. Here's a boring story. Let's get back to that Victor guy that you got on the show, okay? All right, I'm going to take off and go upstairs into, my new wing. Listen to the show over there in one of the dark corners. All right. Turn the heck out.
Oh, Bob.
Wow. That was all over.
It's like double. Yeah, he was kind of schizophrenic there. I don't know.
So he's in a double wide now outside of his Walmart.
Was it 20 wide or a double wide?
Well,
it's a 20 wide.
Double high, I guess.
Double high. It's like the stacks in Ready Player One.
Right.
Right.
There we go.
This is the part where we interview our guest. Welcome again to the show, Matthew Janeczek.
Yes.
Got it right. Happy to be here.
Thanks for pulling through the last hour.
I like that.
Were you entertained? That's the
Yes, I was actually entertained. Yes. I like the music.
Good.
It's good. We did that so we don't get sued. So let's have you introduce yourself and tell us what you do for a living, just to get things rolling.
Sure. So for a living, my full-time job is my background is in chemical engineering, and I support a 24/7 manufacturing operation for insulin purification. So I'm in the biotech field, and I do that kind of 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and been doing that for probably 15, 16 years by now. So
wow.
So this arcade stuff I do evenings and weekends to kind of break the monotony of that stuff, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think we all have boring day jobs. Well, boring-ish. I work in biometrics, not biomedical, but so it's a life.
Yeah, I shouldn't say it's boring. I mean, it's interesting, but it's just it's a lot of regulations and things like that you have to follow. So like rules, and sometimes it gets a little.
Yeah. Well, you do the same. So usually we kick off the interview with a poignant question that Mark loves to ask. So I'm going to let Mark ask you this next question.
All right.
Okay. Our standard poignant question is, what is your video game origin story, or under what circumstances did you first become hooked on arcade/video games?
Well, I'll tell you, actually, I have kind of an interesting maybe story. So I'm 37. I was born in 1982. So I'm kind of, people know that about me, they're like, well, why do you like all these old games and stuff? That was kind of like, 10 years before your time or whatnot.
Sure. Right.
So kind of two things. at a very young age, I do remember going to, I think my very first experience of seeing an arcade game in person was the Sears store at our local mall had like a cafeteria where you could eat, and then like right next to it had a game room with some vending machines and a couple games, and it had a cockpit pole position. And for whatever reason, I was like infatuated with that. I could barely reach the pedals or the steering wheel or whatever, but I always begged to play that whenever we went shopping. So that was my first kind of, maybe arcade experience. And then as I got a little bit older and I really, really wanted to have some kind of a video game at home. I like computers and things like that. And that was probably by the mid to semi-late 80s, and the NES was already out. So I really wanted that, but my parents were like, oh, it's kind of expensive, this, and that. So they must have found an Atari 7800 that was on sale somewhere, bought it.
Whoa!
Yeah, and it came with Pole Position, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, and Asteroids, and I played the crap out of it every waking moment, like during summer break and stuff. So I was sort of, that's sort of the games I grew up on because that's what I had. And so, fast forward 30 some years or whatever, I find those, I guess, golden age games to be very interesting. So here I am today.
Nice. That's and it being a 7800 sort of is like the quality is so much higher than say a 2600.
Exactly. And the cool thing was all of my friends that still had a bunch of 2600 cartridges.
Right.
They could come over and play them, so it was a great time.
Nice.
Yeah, the Galaga port on that for the 7800 is pretty decent.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So do you have any favorite arcades, or was it really just Sears?
Well, when we used to go to Pizza Hut, I always wanted to play the Cocktail Miss Pac-Man in the little waiting area. That was great.
So awesome.
Yeah. And another kind of semi-interesting thing, I never got to go in it just because I guess I wasn't allowed or whatnot, but not too far from my house, maybe a 10, 15-minute drive from my house. You guys remember the story of the kid that walked up and played Berserk, and he had some kind of, heart attack or something like that and dropped dead after.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So if you Google it, there's a whole story written up on it. He had some kind of pre-existing medical condition, but there was this urban legend that the Berserk was, cursed or something like that. I had no idea about that until later when I was older. And once I started reading the story, I'm like, it was Friar Tuck's game room in either Calumet City or Lansing, Illinois. I can't remember. But that was on the way to that mall where the Sears was, and we would drive by all the time. And I never got to go in there, but it was a pretty cool arcade if you look at photos and stuff. So,
dang, I wonder if there was some kind of because when you die in Berserk it flashes. Maybe there's an epilepsy situation that happened.
Or something like that.
That's before the warnings,
Yeah, exactly. So.
Good times. I mean, that's sad.
So was there ever a time when you stopped playing arcade games when you were growing up? So you started, you got hooked on them. Did they just catch and go, or?
So like I said, I had the 7800. I eventually got an NES. Played that kind of into the early to mid 90s. Then I sort of, I don't know, as maybe I grew up, I sort of stopped playing games both at home and out in the arcades. And I don't know, it was kind of weird. I guess I got too involved with school and a job and stuff like that. And then I guess being separated from it for so long, then it was like, oh, my mom has this box full of all my old Atari stuff. And I started playing that again and got interested in it. And then, this is probably going back now, maybe 6-7 years ago. I never thought, at this time I thought, surely all these original cabinets are they can't be around anymore, probably all in a landfill somewhere. But I would really like to have a couple of them for my house. And so of course I started getting on Facebook and whatnot and discovered Clove and all these different forums, and there I was like, oh my God, you can actually still buy these things. So then started getting into those, and then I sort of put the console gaming stuff to the side and sort of went from there.
I think that's kind of how it goes for a lot of us. We all get into the consoles, and then you find yourself buying the same Midway collection over and over again.
I abandoned my console collection in 1991, I think.
Oh, good for
never
you.
looked back.
Yeah.
So what was your first game, Matt?
What was your what?
What was your first game that you collected?
Oh, actual full size.
Yeah.
Full size game. It was actually a Cabaret Pac-Man. Was the first one I picked up.
Do you remember what you paid for it?
I think I paid $6.50 for it, and that was around 2013 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was all right, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all consider our first buy more expensive than we would pay today.
Not me.
Well, $6.50 is actually pretty.
For $50.
What's what?
Xevious, $50. Bam.
Xevious? That's a good buy.
It's not Xevious. It's just Xevious.
I think it's just Xevious, like xylophone.
Yeah, Stan Lee screwed everyone over with Xavier.
Oh, that's probably why.
Yeah. So it's yeah. You don't say xylophone, you know.
Why not?
Because you just don't.
X-Acto knife.
I think there's an E on that.
I don't think there is. Check
it's
it out.
just a big X. So, what was your second game? You said you picked up a couple.
So Pac-Man was the first, and then maybe a couple months after that, I picked up. I originally thought it was a dedicated Dig Dug Cabaret, but it was actually a Tempest Cabaret that somebody kind of hodgepodge made a Dig Dug. Because I really like Dig Dug, and at this time, actually, I was living in a small condo, and it's like, well, I can only have 4 or 5 of these things, and I was going more for the cabarets. But yeah, that was the second game I picked up.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, start small. Mine was a cocktail and then a cabaret. My first two were so. Yeah. So, Mark, you like to ask this question? You asked this question.
Who are your heroes in the arcade collecting hobby?
Maybe you should specify what a hero means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
A hero is somebody who comes to your house and then gives you a really firm hug. No, wait.
Who cleans their study for your show and bleaches their hair just for you.
Wait, let me re-ask this question.
I didn't even know I had a study.
Who inspires you? Like, I'm sure you saw stuff on the YouTubes when you first got into the hobby, and maybe a John Jacobson got in there somewhere or something, What did you get? What happened to you?
And actually, if I think back to so here's kind of going back to when I got those first 2 games.
Sure.
Even though I have an engineering background, honestly, when I was in school, I wasn't paying any attention to circuits and electrical engineering and stuff like that. And I had no idea. I would open that up. I look at this big circuit board thing that's doing all this complicated stuff, and I'm never going to figure this stuff out. And I'm like, well, I'd really like to, maybe buy some cheap games and try to fix them myself. But then I had no idea where to start. And so, then I started Googling stuff and YouTubing stuff. And, believe it or not, John's Arcade was one of the first ones I stumbled upon.
Oh, the hell you say.
Yeah, and I started watching it. And, I guess it was a kind of a good way to sort of glide into things.
Yes.
If I put it that way, it's not a very intense repair channel.
No, not at all. What I love about Arcade Jason's channel is he draws the diagram on the fly for you. I'm like, holy shit!
Yes.
Now he's forcing me to learn this shit.
Yeah. And conversely, John gets in there and is like, I don't know how to do this.
He doesn't know anything, right?
And, right.
Yeah, and half the time he shocks himself.
It doesn't work. I don't know.
We
you
just
watch it a few times and go, if I have an engineering degree, I should at least be this good. Here's the base level.
No offense to John, because I think we all looked at his videos early on.
We all love John.
The other thing that's really funny, I swear to God, last Saturday, a couple of my friends had never seen any of his videos, and so I said, "Let's watch the Journey Brown Paint episode." which is a classic, and
that's great. I think I remember watching that when it first came out, and when he first opened it, I'm like, Dad is thinking to myself, "There's no way that's blue,"
And then he's like, stirring it, hoping it turns blue. That's good times. Good times. Yeah. So,
Hey, speaking of where, Adam. Sorry, sidebar, but
Yeah,
is your journey done? Are you finished with it?
no, I stalled out. I have all the parts except for the control panel needs to be done.
And except for the plaque saying dedicated to Brian Armitage.
The what?
We'll revisit this at another time.
Yeah,
so,
no. I'm about to start episode 35 of my Journey Restored, and so
After the brown sparkle paint was removed.
yeah, no, it's on hold. So I've got other things that are way lower hanging fruit until summer rolls around. So, but that's gonna take me 2 years because that stupid. I gotta find a local welder, or send it out to somebody or something, or just make them. But
so actually, we should chat because I have a Star Wars panel we need to patch a hole in.
Okay.
So,
yeah, if we can find somebody, and then I was actually gonna just try next door and see if anybody had some recommendations for like a local guy that does spot welding or something. But
Mr. Peabody can weld.
Sweet. We need to get together. So, all right. So back to our guest. Matt's like, what these guys? They're not talking to me. They don't understand. So, all right. So, what was your first vector game?
First vector game. So I ended up picking up a complete Tempest kind of early on, just because I got a good deal on it.
Sure.
Did not work. I mean, the whole thing was just all the parts were there, but it was just wiring's a mess and stuff like that. So I set that aside. The first working one that I actually enjoyed playing that I got was an Omega Race.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's great about Omega Race too, and I love to talk about Omega Race because it's such a good game, but
you need one.
It's the only vector that Bally did. It's like, and then they got sued, I guess.
Yeah.
Oops. So I hear that's why they got cold feet, but man, that was a really good execution. And way better.
Oh yeah, definitely. And and I think there's some website somewhere. There's like a second Midway game that probably got nixed once they got sued, but it's still like prototype, and I can't remember the name of it. That System 16 website where they have different, I think it's what it's called.
Not familiar.
But anyhow, on there, there's some little blurb under the Midway tab about one, and I can't remember what it was called, but yes, Omega Race was the only released one.
Somebody will tell us in the chat probably.
Yeah.
But so you got on Omega Race, and it was at a cabaret cocktail dedicated.
The upright, the full size.
Yeah, and that's an amazing cabinet with all the black light and all that stuff.
Oh, it definitely is. And prior to that, I also got a Space Invaders Deluxe, and when I opened that up, I'm like, wow, this is so cool how they did the stuff with the black light and the artwork, and all this like level of detail to basically make up for the rudimentary nature of the game.
Earth Friend.
That's it. That's it.
There we go.
Okay, Earth Friend.
What a terrible name.
Yeah, Earth Friend. Well, Omega Race was not really a great name either, if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good though. Earth Friend sounds like E.T. or something. Come on.
Yeah, it probably
when did
was.
that come out?
Ouch, ET phone home. So Omega Race, I thought was a racing game when I approached it in the arcade, and it was not. And then I thought you had to race the ship around in circles, but you did not. So
Ooh, that'd be confusing, because you have to get around that score box floating in space.
I will say I had a VIC-20 that had an excellent port of the Omega Race game.
That's cool.
Used to play that all the time.
Yeah, I've seen that. Nice. Too bad for that kind of basic computer. They did a good job.
It's very basic.
The poor person version of the Commodore, right? Is that what?
It is a Commodore. It's the Commodore VIC-20 before the 64 came out. Yeah. Yeah. I still have my VIC-20. I have a VIC-20 and I have like every cartridge you could get for it. It's awesome. And the expansion card slot, which you could only use unless you had like anyway. So,
yeah.
Okay. So you're starting to figure out, okay, I need to fix stuff. When did you decide I mean, we all do this out of the necessity, right? You can't just send out your boards to everybody every time you want something done. It costs you thousands of dollars. So at some point you made the decision, I'm going to try to fix this. What was your first attempt?
Yeah. So actually, I'm trying to think of the very first thing I tried to fix.
Mine was a diode and battery for a Tron cocktail.
Yeah. So the Omega Race, the thing with the Omega Race with the battery and the leakage, that's a big issue. The one that I bought didn't have that, but
awesome.
At some point, I can't remember exactly which game it was, but at some point something wasn't working. Like I checked the voltages, all that basic stuff, and it just wasn't booting up. And maybe it was a Galaga or something. But anyhow, I'm like, like basically what you said, like I could send this out, find somebody to repair it. Yeah. And this is so early on when I didn't really have kind of a lot of maybe like arcade friends, I guess I could say.
Sure.
You could say.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know where to start to try to find somebody to repair something. Then I'm thinking to myself, gosh, Matt, these things were made in like the late 70s and early 80s. They can't, even though it looks like there's a lot of stuff on these boards, I mean, it can't be like that astronomically complicated, right? Right. There's got to be like some basic way that this is laid out. And so then I started, again, talking to a few folks and Googling things and just trying to figure out like the basics of like logic gates and memory and processors and how they all kind of are interrelated. And I had this kind of like aha moment because so like in chemical engineering, or I guess in any engineering discipline in general, I remember a professor very distinctly told me that you could solve essentially any engineering problem by remembering this concept, this big concept of flow equals driving force over resistance.
Sure.
And so like for me as a chemical engineer, it's like flow of fluid through pipes and friction losses and things like that. Then I thought to myself, there's voltage, current, and resistance that you're measuring in these circuits. It's like kind of the same thing. And it's like, as that clicked in my head, then I started looking at schematics. I'm like, oh, okay, the data flows here, or a power supply works like this. It rectifies the AC to DC and does this to bring the voltage into range. And like, I tell you, man, once I got over that like mental block of like, I'm never going to understand this stuff, it was all just like, I'm obsessed with it now. I can't like I'm going on all these like forums and, there's a lot of folks that got into this stuff when the internet was still, in its infancy, like in the 90s, and we're basic like email lists and message boards. And I got down all kinds of rabbit holes of folks that would try to fix their stuff way back then. And I just sort of basically self-taught myself a lot of things. It wasn't quick, but eventually I started becoming a little bit more proficient as time goes on.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you have a reputation of being the guy that does vector repairs. Or a guy. There's a couple of guys that do it. In fact,
they're in chat right now.
Yeah, exactly. But years ago, I bought a Star Trek. The monitor needed work. I sent it to Chad, Arcade Cup.
Okay.
And he had it for about 2 months.
Oh,
and then he sent it back to me, unrepaired in the same box. And he said, "I'm not doing these anymore because
Bastard.
They're just." Well, I don't really blame him, and we can get into that in a minute. But he sent it back, and he says, "I'm sorry, I'm not really doing these anymore." And I was really frustrated, so I ended up buying all the caps myself from DigiKey, and repairing the power supply and the chassis myself. And then I found this FAQ on bulletproofing your G08. So I did all those things and put on new bottle cap transistors, and that's how I ended up with all those surplus parts, Matt. So I ended up buying tons of stuff. Like, these bottle cap transistors are on eBay right now, and they're I made an offer, and the guy took it. And so I was like, I ended up with a whole bunch of bottle cap transistors. But anyway, you got into G08s because why?
Yeah, so this is probably maybe 3-4 years ago. A friend of mine, I'm in Indianapolis, by the way. So I kind of travel a lot to Chicago and to Louisville and a few different cities in Ohio and stuff like that for gaming things and whatnot. And one year I was in Louisville. They have an arcade expo over there, and I got to meet a guy, and he's like, yeah, I have a couple of these Sega Star Treks in storage in the storage unit. One was a Converticab, and one was a Stern something conversion, maybe a Scramble or something like that. And he's like, I've meant to fix them. I'm never going to get around to it. I'll give you a good deal on it. Do you want it? I'm like, sure, I'll come by and see you sometime. So went to his place, picked them up. They were complete, so that was a good thing. But just nothing worked when you try to get it to run and whatnot. And so, this was, of course, after I got the Omega Race. And so this would have been like, I guess, my third vector, the Tempest, Omega Race, and now these. Sure. And so I started doing some research and found that FAQ and saw all these forums of, my Geo-8 shorted out, caught on fire, did this, did that. I can't figure it out. So I'm like, well, you know what? I like tough challenges, and thinking if I can figure out how to get this thing to work, this monitor that like everybody's afraid of and whatnot, like everything else is going to be easy by comparison, right? That's kind of like how my weird mind works. Yeah. So I'm like, all right. So I read that FAQ, read a bunch of different things, and I was scared to death after I pulled the monitor out and did all these. Rebuilt it and did all this stuff. I was going to put it back in, and like I was thinking, like literally, like a flame was going to just come up somewhere. Like I had a fire extinguisher with me, and believe it or not, the monitor didn't work on the first time I powered it up. But like when you have, I always have my hand on the little interlock switch pushed in, so I can like push it off or pull it off right away in case something happens. And when I heard that like zap from the high voltage come on, I like yanked my finger away, thinking like the thing's gonna blow up. Zap. But no, it was just like any other monitor. It turned on. Got partial deflection. I'm like, all right, well, I'm getting there. Oh wow. So, make a long story short, I kind of struggled through that a lot.
Well, because it's not just the Geo-8 chassis; it's that G80 power supply.
The power supply and the logic boards. I mean, because for folks that aren't familiar with it. All the Sega Vector games and the raster games on the G80 system have that card cage where you can put like 5 or 6 cards into it. And I guess it's both. There's positives and negatives. I mean, the nice thing is you could take a card out and put a known good one in and try to troubleshoot to see which ones are bad. Right. But the downside is you can't easily do logic probing or, like kind of tinker with it without pulling the thing apart.
The other thing that's good about having those multi-card systems is that they isolate the different types of things that are going on in the game. But I think you kind of overcomplicate the plumbing that way in some ways. I think feel the same way about Williams, right? They separated everything out. You have the interconnect board, you have the CPU board, you have the video board, you have the sound board, then you have the power board. And so there's all these things, and it's just like, it's not in a card cage, but it's the same concept. You have all these things that can go wrong. So right. It can be a nightmare. And just for a background, in case people are wondering, what's a Geo-8 G80? So the Sega, why don't you give us a background on that, Matt? What's the difference?
So the Sega G80. So the G80 terminology is a Sega Gremlin code name that they had for the system. And so basically you have. Like I said, that card cage with like 5 or 6 cards in it, and there's a common backplane on the back, so the address and data bus and all the inputs and outputs and stuff are all shared. So those cards can go into any order; it doesn't matter. On the front of it, then that's where all the inputs and outputs and sound and video is hooked up. So I think maybe it was their idea to kind of go away from like everything being so custom and non-standard. On all these early video games to maybe a semi-standardized system to where like the CPU card is the same no matter what game you're working on or playing. It's just there's a couple ROMs and some security chips that are different. So I think their idea was, you buy a Space Fury or something like that. And then as the other games would come out, you change the sound card, change the ROM board, and you're good to go. So you have that, and then there's this big linear power supply that's in there that has 4 voltages, and that just hooks up directly to that card cage. Now the G08 monitor is Electrohome designed the monitor, and that's just maybe the one they did after the G07, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
So they designed that monitor.
Unfortunate naming conventions.
Yeah. Dyslexic people probably drives them nuts, right?
And so Sega used this system for games like TaxScan, Space Fury, Star Trek. What else?
So there's 5 vector games. Yeah, there's Space Fury, Star Trek, TaxScan, Eliminator, and Zektor.
Okay.
I guess there's a 6th one, Battlestar. There's some flyer with a picture of it on there, but nobody's, I believe, has ever found
a working
ROMs
one
for it or anything like that. Those are the Sega games. Cosmic Chasm, I believe, uses a version of the G08, some slight modifications, and there might. Arcade Jason can probably fill me in on the rest of them. There might be a couple others I'm missing, but it was primarily for Sega.
And it's good to note also that the actual tube, not the chassis, but the tube is the same tube that's in a 6100.
Exactly. Yes, the tube is exactly the same. So if you really need or want a G08 and have a 6100 or vice versa, they're interchangeable.
Most of the spares that I've ever seen have had like a giant burn hole in the middle, 6100, or it's hard to find one that a vector monitor that hasn't been totaled by the guns. And the there's a lot up with Star Trek burn. I don't know if the same thing's true of like Space Fury or the other games.
Yeah, I've seen all versions of it.
Yeah. So you get into your first Star Trek and it's a mess, and you finally get it working. And I remember, is it Mondo? Is that his name that did the FAQ for the bulletproofing?
Yes, he has they're like tips on what to do to kind of.
It's like Mondo's bulletproofing tips or whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, I ended up having him. I think he's in Chicago. Is he in Chicago?
I'm not sure. I've never talked to the guy.
Anyway, he calls me to help me troubleshoot my Star Trek. And we're and so he knows what's going on, and I happen to have an extra cage, so he's like, okay, this is the board that's the problem. This is the one that's giving you the problem. And I switch out, and he tells me which one to switch. And I screw up the cable, the interconnect cable between it. So I get it working, and it's really not broke or anything. The cable just had the housing came off. So it was working, but then I ended up buying all the pieces to make a bunch of those cables, because why not, right? So I have like a whole bunch of ribbon cable and these little connectors for the internet. So if you need that stuff, I'll send it to you. Anyway, I switch it out, and the most glorious noise is that dun, 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 dun. And I was just like, oh my God, it's working.
The game works.
And then when I was a kid, I used to play it in a holiday grocery store, the cockpit version, and I just love going in there and dropping the coin and then hearing "Welcome aboard, Captain," and that was just all I needed. I was just like in the captain's chair. I am the captain. Yes. So, what was it like for you when you finally got that G08 going?
Yeah, so when I got it going, so I think I actually the power supply had some issues. I fixed that. And then the monitor was really kind of messed up. So I actually had an oscilloscope at the time. I got a good deal on eBay, so I just bought one to have. And I'm like, well, I'm reading these tips and stuff, and like, make sure you have either a good monitor or a good logic cage, and you can kind of focus your repair efforts that way. So actually, the logic cage was producing a good picture for the most part. I had some little issues with the vectors, but like the actual core logic was working. So I'm like, okay, I'll deal with that later. So I just focused on the monitor. And like I said, I pulled it in and out of the game maybe 6-7 times, just trying to figure out what was going on. Now I will tell you another downside to this G08, besides the fact that it kind of can be a little bit unstable at times, is when Electrohome released the first version of it, those two little paddle boards that are on like the version 3 that you see in most games were not there in the very early games.
Yeah.
And so they figured out basically what was happening when you start the game up. For a very split second, when all the vectors were kind of like scrambled on the screen, it would overdrive those transistors for a little while, and over time that's what was causing them to fail.
Sure.
So they put the paddle boards in there. They had to do all this kind of stuff, like make modifications, cuts and jumpers and resistors and diodes piggybacked on the board. And when I pulled this thing out, I'm like, surely somebody was in here like tinkering with this, trying to get it to work.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. Then I'm like, then I started reading that FAQ and about the history of the monitor. I'm like, are you serious? This actually came from the factory like this? So
well, the other thing is, how many GOA, just a sidebar, how many GOA chassis do you think you've repaired so far?
So far, maybe
just rough guess.
4 dozen.
Okay, so 4 dozen. That's incredible,
50.
by the way. And these
amazing.
And
50.
And you're making them pretty much bulletproof, and people are super happy with the product. That's what I hear. I haven't had any work done by you yet, but I assume at some point I will.
Okay.
So because I have 4, spare chassis.
Hey, did you bulletproof Fett? He had a Star Trek and an Astro. I knew it.
I did his. Yes, I did his.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
And so I've got like 5 chassis and 4 board sets and all that stuff. I gotta send all this. Anyway, I had a question and now I forgot what. Oh yeah. So you've done all these 48 chassis, and how many of them are the same?
I would say hardly any. And so here's the thing: like, there's probably 3 or 4 like major like revisions of the silks, the screening of the traces and everything like that. But I would say within those, each of them have 3 or 4 subversions, because they did field service kits, they did factory recalls where you would send it back and they would do things, and then like everyone is slightly different that I get.
I can't imagine being Sega Gremlin and. I mean, like, who was I'm sure the engineer that invented that chassis was fired.
I would guess, yeah. Well, no.
Because none of them are the same. None of them.
I mean, it's amazing how they can come up with something that kind of works, and then then the rest of the development is basically making it work. Yeah. And then you get these crazy variations.
I will say though, the picture on a GOA is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and like, so that's the funny thing. Like, I mean, it's terrible to work on, and I literally had one catch fire today. I mean, we plugged one in, and the resistor underneath one of the paddle boards caught on fire. Adam says it didn't, but there were flames. We called the fire department. No, we didn't do that. But like, we literally had like yellow flames come out, pulling the. Anyways. But the picture when you get it going is unbelievable. I mean, it's just I mean, I like the medium res ampliphones, but I mean the picture on a GOA just pops. I mean, it really. When you think vector and you think I have to have a vector rendering of a game, like you see the games rendered by a GOA, they're gorgeous.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, for sure. And what was I going to say about that? Gosh. Oh, I know. Kind of related to that. A lot of people don't. A lot of people think Tempest was the first color vector game. Actually, Space Fury was released, I think, a month or 2 before Tempest. So I'm wondering. This is all just me guessing, but I'm wondering if maybe Sega was in competition and pushing Electrohome to finish that monitor, and not really, think through everything, and maybe that's why, if they would have taken a little bit more time and really designed that circuit with the current limiting boards integrated into the main deflection board, it may have had a better reputation and not end up in the landfill like I think so many of them have. So
it's interesting to me too. I don't know. I mean, this is the type of thing that I'd love to know the answer to, because why not? Atari used Electrohome G07s in tons of their games. And yet they went with Wells Gardner on the 6100 on pretty much all their vectors, not including the Ampliphone, right? So that's interesting to me. Like, it seems like to me Atari must have either not had the contract with Electrohome for vectors or said your monitor's not good enough, and so we're going to go with this. Be interesting to find out what the choice was.
That's possible, and I think I just saw Jason comment there about the plate voltages on the G08, and he's right. And basically, the reason that I guess the vectors look so crisp, like for example, like on Space Duel, on the Atari Space Duel, if you look at the very top where it says like player 1, player 2, and some very small text, it's a little, I don't know, it's just, to me, it seems kind of squished and blurry. It's not very crisp. You know, like on the G08, you could have very small text and things like that. And I mean, that line is just dead on, super, you know, it's right there. And, you know, it has a lot to do with how fast the monitor can move that beam back and forth multiple times a second. So, yeah, they did I mean, the performance and how the picture looks is great. I just wish they would have designed the circuit a little bit better up front.
So if you were to give G08 and G80 repair guys tips, what would be your one tip for the G80 power supply? And what would be your one tip for the G08 chassis?
So the G80 power supply, I know a lot of folks, you know, they're down on linear supplies in general and stuff like that. You know, that one, it's not that bad. I guess maybe two things. There's the AC input header from the transformer that goes to it, gets a little brown and kind of corroded from all the current that it's pulling. So two things. Absolutely 100% in that tip guide, there's a thing in there about taking the primary side of the transformer and going from 1 and 3 to 2 and 4. 1 and 3 was how it came from the factory, and that was for 110 volts. 2 and 4 gets you closer to 120 volts. And just by that 10 volt difference, it does not seem like a lot. It takes a huge edge off of the heat generated in the power supply and in the monitor, because things aren't working as hard to kind of get within their design range. You know what I mean? So that's one big thing. And then the other thing, if you want to stick with the linear supply, you can recap it. It's up to you. I mean, the caps in there are decent, but there's I think it's a tip 141. It's the transistor, the current pass transistor for the 5 volts.
Sure.
The tip 141 was just kind of marginal for the amount of boards it was running. And so when folks send me the power supply, I've rebuilt maybe 8 or 10 of those for different people, and about half of them had a shorted tip 141. So your voltage goes from about 5 up to 7 or so.
Not good.
Replace that, get a heftier rated transistor, you'll be good there.
Sure.
So that'll get your power supply good. On the monitor, if it's your first time doing it, it was intimidating for me. If your monitor works, don't just say, "Oh, it works. I'm just not going to touch it." Bad assumption, because again, almost every single one I get, the paddle, especially by the paddle boards, every header pin has to be reflowed, and really they use those stupid circular ones that I think Williams did on a lot of theirs. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about a circle and a pin contacting a circle, it's just a tangent, right? It's just a very little tiny piece versus a square where you get a lot of good surface area for contact there. Even if your monitor works, pull it out, replace those with square header pins and reflow everything. You'll be good there. If it doesn't work, there's a lot of things you got to go through.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice. And also, I think Buildtronics and the FAQ, and there's lots of resources out there that I used when I was rebuilding mine. But otherwise, send it to Mr. Matt and have him do the work, because he knows them inside and out. Or Jason. I don't know how many repairs he takes in, but he's good with all that stuff too.
And I will say, and a lot of folks ask me to, like, because they know that I do the Sega stuff, and they'll ask me, hey, could you fix my Star Wars or some Cinematronics game or something like that, and I honestly kind of have to turn some people away because even with just all the Sega stuff I get, that's just like it's a lot, and I prefer. Again, I'm like an engineer. I like to be very efficient and kind of focus on just a handful of things that I know inside and out, and that I can go through in a kind of a timely manner. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I could probably learn some of the other stuff, but like to me, it's very interesting. And there's other folks out there. There's a lot of other very good folks that do the other vector stuff too. So I'm not the only guy.
So I'm going to just cut in quickly on that and say, but you got this amazing testing system recently, correct? Am I?
Yes.
So tell us about that. Tell us how that came to you. Give us a little story here and tell us what happened.
Yeah. So what Brian's referring to, this was probably maybe in fall of last year, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So, each major manufacturer kind of had these like test rigs, like, the PAT 9000, I think, is one of them from Atari. And like, Bally and Williams had different things for their pinballs. So Midway made one called the Midway Universal Tester. So it's very similar. It's just like this base unit with these cards you stick into it. Wow. And then there's these custom built harnesses for each Midway game, like, Tron, Satan's Hollow, Burger Time, you name it. And, I've never had one of those. I've always built some like little just rigged up thing on my bench to kind of, fix a game. I'm like, I'd really like to get maybe a little bit more professional someday on some of this stuff. And I don't think Sega ever made one for the G80 system, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. But second to the Sega stuff, I really like Midway games. I have a lot of, MCR games, stuff from the late 70s and early 80s. And so I was kind of intrigued by that. And make a long story short, I was able to track a guy down through maybe Clove or some site where he had one for sale several years ago and nobody bought it. And I just out of the clear blue, I messaged him, hey, do you still got this thing? And he did. And we went back and forth for a long time. And he was on the West Coast and he did a great job. He packed this thing up in a double-walled box, and the thing weighed 100 pounds with everything in there, and that made it to me safely. And basically the way it works is you have that on your test bench, you have any kind of color raster monitor or a vector monitor for a mega race, and then you have all these different harnesses and these little test ROMs specific to each game, hook it all up to a game, and then it does I haven't played with it really yet to tell you what it does all encompassing, but it'll probably do rudimentary things like ROM test, RAM test, things like that to kind of help you troubleshoot. The big advantage of it is with all of these games that had non-standard, non-JAMA hookups on it and edge connectors, it prevents you from having to build or figure out how to hook up these games when you want to fix them. You could just get everything hooked up, put it on the bench, and bam, it's running. And that's, I think, cool.
That's awesome.
So I will say we did pick up a PAT 9000, luckily. We got very lucky to find one. And it was amazing how quickly we could fix boards just because you weren't looking for a cabinet. You plug the adapter in, you hook the board up, and you're instantly testing and, messing around with the game. So it is handy to have that. Yeah. The neat thing about it, it is rudimentary. Actually, the PAT was very much just like hook the board up and let it play, whereas the Midway one had some intelligence in it. It was not just a plug it in, let it go, and that's kind of a really neat feature of that.
Yes, yeah. Because I was just gonna say, if you could download, there's like a manual on how to use that thing, and I was reading it too. I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. I'd love to dig into this when I have time.
Yeah.
And just to chime in. So Brian Frober mentioned Buffett does repairs, especially on chassis, and I don't know how much Buffett does with the Andy Baldwin. Arcade Jason said, "Why is nobody name dropped Andy Baldwin here?"
Yeah, right. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy's a great guy. He does a lot of stuff.
He's helped me out quite a bit too. Yeah.
So so I think one of the things that Aaron Sanders just popped in and said, Matt's a smart guy. What's up, everybody? So, as one of the guys who's really becoming, there's a lot of guys who've been doing repairs for a long time in this community, and you're coming in and taking over kind of certain parts of it and making a name for yourself. How's that interaction been with the guys who've been around for a while and doing this?
And I will say, and I apologize for not mentioning this earlier, folks like Jason and Andy and if you guys know David Schumann and Douglas Gauk, that's how you pronounce his name. They've helped me like early on when I first started doing this stuff, and I run into a problem that I wasn't sure about. I would ping them, probably annoy the heck out of them sometimes, which I apologize, but they helped me learn a lot too. So like, I don't want it to be like I'm like the only guy doing all this stuff. There's lots of other folks out there, and there's lots of monitors and lots of boards to fix. So,
and I think that's one of the things I wanted. The reason I asked that in part is because people were asking a few questions, but one of the other things that I think is really neat is like you got into this, right? Like you learned yourself, like you taught yourself a lot of the stuff, but like the community also helps support you learning these things. So for somebody who's in the chat or listening to this or watching John's Arcade or anything else, like this is not an impossible place to get to. There is the support and the community. Yeah. At least our experience has been the community really encourages people to learn this, and people like, Jason aren't walking around saying, I'm going to keep all my knowledge for myself. They're trying to share this and spread it and actually allow more people to do these repairs, which is one of the things I think is fascinating and really amazing in this community. People aren't holding on to the knowledge as a value; they're spreading it.
Exactly, and I will say something too. Like outside of us nerds that like this kind of stuff,
right?
I tell people at work and in general life what I do, and they're like, "Why do you like that old stuff? You have to go and get those CRT TV things to do tube swaps and stuff. Like, why do you care about this?" And so, I'll tell you, like all these folks that like, let's say, this was your business in the 70s and 80s when everything was booming and you were an arcade repair shop or monitor repair shop. And that's what you did. You were really good at it back then. But of course, as time goes on and you move on to other things in life and you sort of maybe forget about that, there's outside of like the folks in this hobby that do this stuff, a lot of that knowledge is becoming almost obsolete, So I think it's really cool that things are being sort of passed on as time goes on to more and more people that care about it.
Hey, so, and then I had another question for you. So you do all these amazing repairs on games. Is there a game that you've always wanted, haven't found yet? What's the game that you're still searching for?
Oh man.
Oh yes.
That's a loaded question. Gosh. So, excuse me. Man,
5 seconds. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I would really love to have. I would really like to have, and I know it's probably never going to happen because there's not that many, but I would really like to have a Cosmic Chasm someday. I think that's a really neat game. I had a little, or I still have a little tabletop Vectrex, and there's a game on there. I think it's called Cosmic Chasm as well, and that's how I first played the game. And I'm like, I had no idea there was an arcade version of it, and maybe someday, I don't know. It's very expensive, I know. So
that's cool.
Was that
nice?
Is that new FPGA, the Synvectron thing? Does that have Cosmic Chasm on it?
I'm not sure.
Is there one
That'd be interesting.
Is there one that got away? Like you almost had it, and then somebody else got it?
For Cosmic Chasms, no, not at all. But there's been a handful of times where I was just 2 seconds late to a game and somebody got it before me.
Yeah, that's always frustrating. Right. But so nothing like really. Like, I'm so sad I didn't get it.
No.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're all games, right?
Right. Yeah.
So just wait for the one.
Right. So how many games do you have?
I probably have 65-ish, 70.
Nice.
Take inventory.
And how many are vectors? Like half or a third or?
No, really. So I have, let's see, maybe 10 vector games or so. I have a Star Trek upright, a Star Trek captain's chair, a Space Marine, and a TAC scan in their respective cabinets. I'm trying to assemble the parts and pieces, get a converticab to make Zektor and Eliminator. So I'd like to have just the full lineup of those, of course. And then I have the Tempest and a Mega Race.
Okay.
And, there might be a couple of Atari ones I would like to get. And Gravatar is on its way, actually. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's, converticabs, in my opinion, are probably the worst cabinet next to an Atari cabinet for weight and working on them.
Goodness, yeah, they're heavy as heavy could be.
And there's no access. You have like one door on the back. That's not. And you have to. It's just a mess. And then those milk carton. Somebody should make new injection mold milk carton coin boxes for those.
Those are blow molded.
They're blow molded, yeah.
It's like it's a weird process. It's actually a goofy little process to get those made. So Andy Baldwin just said, "What are your thoughts on the Sega?" Jeez, let me have another beer. Sega multi kits.
The Sega multi kit. It's a good option. I think Vector Labs did a pretty good job, a really good job, I should say, for, essentially, with his kit, you don't have to have the EEPROM board, but he has a little add-on board that goes onto the CPU board, and it takes some basic, intermediate level, I would say maybe jumpers and soldering for a few things. And I've installed a few for different folks, and it plays. It uses the identical code and uses the XY cards. So it's a good option if you don't want to seek out all the originals.
So it's true to the originals.
And we were talking about the sound.
It's ironic
that he has a new soundboard that's like. What's that?
It's ironic that you cut out right when you were saying sound.
Yeah, you're roboting a little bit there.
So $400, you can have a soundboard. I'll just stay quiet. I'll just.
Yeah, he does. So yeah, he's referring to Vector Labs makes a surface mount soundboard to use with his kit. It's been out for maybe a couple years, but prior to that, in order to have all 5 games, have all the sounds, you had to seek out all 3 of the G80 sound cards, and Beatball and Battlestar are kind of hard to find. So, I think a lot of folks were just kind of waiting for an alternative, so he buckled down and made it. But, it's $400.
Nice and cheap.
Yeah.
Might as well buy the whole game. So, Mark, did you have a couple questions?
Let's see. Hold on. Let me go back at my show notes here. I see I am not in my show notes.
Well, I could ask a question then.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll stop roboting then. What are your 5 least favorite arcade games? What are the 5 that you couldn't get rid of quick enough?
This is a good question for everybody.
Oh man, gosh.
Let's just pick 2.
Just 2.
Yeah.
Well, and the issue with me, I have this big problem of I buy and collect, and it takes like twisting of my arm to let a game go. I don't know why, but
right.
Yeah, I don't have that.
He does not. It's very nice.
I don't know. The few I've had like early on when I was starting collecting, I was just like buying stuff that I found cheap. I didn't really care if it was a bootleg, an original, a conversion or whatnot. And I've sold off a few of those. Like I've had like bootlegger conversion, whatever you want to call it, like, Space Invaders and things like that, where it's just like, it's very poorly done. There's not a lot of artwork to it, and it's just kind of like a big black box. So I didn't really have too much of an attachment to those. Not that they were bad games, but just as I started collecting more and kind of focusing on these cabinets that have all this fantastic artwork and stuff like that, I think those are the kind of games I sort of shed over time. But I try to be a little selective with not just trying to get the games I like.
So diplomatic. You don't hate any games. I really hate Exterminator.
I never played it, but I heard it doesn't get good reviews.
Wow. Hey, so do you have any parting advice for us as far as the vectors goes? Like, is there something that you say at the end of every email that you send somebody, like, hey, here it is, I finished it, but ...
Don't ever send me anything again because
yeah, right.
Because this was a real mess thanks to you.
Don't leave it on for a week.
I toiled and labored for a week on this thing. I don't ever want to see you again.
Yeah. We're not friends anymore.
We're not friends now.
And then they plug it into something wrong and blow it out and have to send it right back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like what I do. If anybody needs my help on the Sega stuff, just get with me and I'll help you out. So
on the
Where
Facebooks,
do they do that? How do they do that?
You can just get with me on either Facebook, just find my name on there and send me a message, or if you're on just Claw, if you don't do Facebook, my name on there is Back in Time 82.
Oh, nice.
Back to the Future, Back in Time 82.
Oh, I wonder why you like Back to the Future. That's nice. I'm Time Runner, so also same.
Oh, yep, awesome. Yeah, it's a great movie.
All right, well, hang with us after we sign off.
Sure.
And
we'll talk to you offline for 1 minute.
And we're just gonna. Hey, I just want to thank everybody for listening, and this has been the Double R's. It's Arcade Radio.
Oh, I didn't go in my trailer notes. Like I said, Facebook at Arcade Radio. Check us out. Semi-regularly updated blog at arcaderadio.com. That's RcadeRadio.com.
If you're not Bob ZEK, give us a call and leave comments and questions.
On the game line.
612-548-GAME. That's 612-548-4263 in case you can't spell game.
And if you're going to complain about Bob calling and him being the only caller, we expect you to call next week. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notification bell so you'll know when we're streaming live.
You can also subscribe to our podcast on Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play Music, and wherever podcasts are streamed.
That's going to be it for the show from Arcade Radio. We hope you had a great time, and we'll see you on the next episode.
What's that? I don't know. It's going to have to be in a week, I think.
All right. Are your pants still on?
They are, yes.
Where's the crotch light? I missed the crotch light.
I can turn it on. I'm turning it on right now. There you go. Is it any better? I don't know. I can't tell.
I like the mood lighting.
It lights up too much around. I don't like that.
Right. It reminds me of 10 Forward on the Star Trek Enterprise.
I remember my buddy Carl hated Guinan, and I was like, Guinan's so cool, man.
I like Guinan. Guinan's awesome. Whoopi Goldberg.
Are you going to watch Picard when it comes on the 23rd?
For sure, I'm going to watch Picard. And then I'm gonna ditch CBS All Access like nobody's business. All right, let's shut this thing down.
Hello?